Let's take a wild leap of imagination. Have you ever wondered if the world before your eyes is actually a pixel-level simulation? 50 years ago, in the Seth Speaks, Seth stated bluntly, "The physical world is merely a camouflage interface created by consciousness for the sake of perception." In 2020, computer genius Stephen Wolfram proposed the physics project, shaking the scientific community with mathematical proof. The universe is not a physical entity, but a complex program evolving from simple rules. At this moment, science and spirituality are no longer in opposition. Together, they map out a non-material, digital world woven from streams of information. Let's dare to open our minds and see how Seth and Wolfram describe this virtual reality. The pixels of reality. units versus discrete nodes. In Seth's philosophy, the smallest units of reality are called units, electromagnetic energy units. They are tiny pulses of consciousness with no resting mass, congealing into matter based on intent. Half a century later, Stephen Wolfram proposed a strikingly similar concept, discrete nodes. Look, those tiny pulses of consciousness described by Seth have become the dense, discrete nodes in Wolfram's scientific vision. Wolfram, space is not a container, it is a connection. In this model, the universe is made of atoms of space. They have no physical substance, only their connections to one another. Solid matter, and even the space you walk upon, are merely macro-scale properties of this vast network. You and I are nothing more than patterns tangled out of data within this complex program. Let's take a wild leap of imagination. The solid world is actually a high-density information point cloud. The universe isn't a continuous fabric. It's a sweater knitted from infinite threads of energy. The operating algorithm. Intent versus simple rules, Rule 30. Seth, the core law is consciousness creates reality. Consciousness gives a simple command, a thought, and energy units spontaneously stack into physical events. Wolfram discovered Rule 30, extremely simple lines of code. When iterated, generate patterns so complex that even supercomputers cannot predict them. In the computational universe, even the simplest rules can produce behavior of immense complexity. Let's take a wild leap of imagination. The universe doesn't need a grand blueprint. It only needs a self-executing underlying program. Your thought is a line of code. The system is responsible for running the entire scene. The truth of senses. Camouflage versus bounded observers. Seth proposed camouflage reality. Physical senses are specialized filters that shape raw energy into tables, chairs, and trees for the sake of survival. Wolfram proposed computational limitation. Human observers have extremely limited processing power. We cannot track every fundamental computation, so we smooth out the chaos into predictable physical laws. We are embedded within the Rulead, represented by the red grid. Physical laws exist only because we, as observers, are computationally bounded, our blue window of perception. Since we cannot track every single microscopic computation, we smooth over the underlying chaos, constructing a reality that appears smooth, stable, and predictable. Don't be fooled by the world's smoothness. In Wolfram's universe, there is no gravity, only the entanglement of nodes. Physical laws are nothing but a graphical user interface, GUI, rendered by the system specifically to prevent you from experiencing information overload. When you define gravity with an equation, you aren't touching the source code. You're just finding the shortcut keys on the desktop icon. The essence of time. Simultaneous time versus multiway graphs. Seth. Simultaneous time. Past, present, and future exist at once in a spacious present. Linearity is a perspectival illusion. Wolfram. Multiway graph. All possible paths occur in parallel within the computational space. Time is just a sequence pulled through the branches by the observer. Even the consistency of time is a construct of the observer. Within the multi-way graph, we create the sensation of a single, continuous timeline by equivalencing different computational branches. Let's take a wild leap of imagination. The universe is a pre-printed map. You are just a traveler with a flashlight, focus, walking a path on that map. Parallel universes. Probabilities versus the Ruleid. Seth. Probabilities. Every decision opens a branch. The road not taken is being experienced by another version of you in another reality. Wolfram. The Ruleid. The ultimate set of all possible rules and computational paths. It contains everything that can possibly exist. Look at this logic map. In Wolfram's computational universe, every initial state-like point, i.e., is akin to a single thought or intent. It's not that path A vanishes when we choose B. Instead, the universe branches into 2, 4, and eventually infinite paths simultaneously within the computational space. The road not taken never perishes. Within this multi-way system, another version of you is experiencing a completely different life along another causal thread, and the ultimate ensemble of all these branches is the Ruleid, the collection of every possibility. Let's take a wild leap of imagination. All regrets are compensated in parallel worlds. Every what-if is a reality currently happening. The drive of evolution. Value fulfillment versus irreducibility. Seth. Value fulfillment. The purpose of existence is not survival, but the expansion of the all that is through creation. Wolfram. Computational irreducibility. The universe must actually run every step because there are no shortcuts to the result. The process is the purpose. Wolfram uses Rule 30 to show us that the universe is computationally irreducible. Even with the simplest rules, there are no shortcuts. You cannot skip the process to see the end. Let's take a wild leap of imagination. The universe exists just to see how many unique, surprising patterns this simple code can ultimately calculate. Ultimate identity. Inner self versus participatory observer. Seth. You are not just a physical ego. You are a multi-dimensional projection of the inner self entity. You are the creator of reality. Wolfram. The observer is part of the computation. The observer's nature determines the perceived physical universe. The universe is a discrete computational process, but we are observers embedded within that computation, possessing only limited computational capacity. We are not merely observing the universe. We are a computationally bounded subset of the universe observing itself. Let's take a wild leap of imagination. You are not the audience watching a movie. You are the protagonist and the engine rendering the frames. Reality is just a single frame rendered by your inner self from infinite code for this specific moment of observation. As science marshes deeper, we realize it is catching up to the wisdom that has been quietly running through the Seth Speaks for 50 years. This collision of dimensions makes us realize how mind-opening the world truly is. Never fear reaching for distant knowledge, for you are free and without boundaries. You have the power to think, create, and reshape your world. Boldly embrace every possibility. Refuse to be locked in a black and white world. In this energy world of consciousness and information, you are the one who defines the colors. Dare to open your mind. Claim your infinite possibilities.